So thank you for everyone. I'm so glad to have an interview today. Professor Hussein from Australia. That he is a very great innovative work in the mobility space. So Professor Hussein, thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to speak about his profile. Hussein Dia is a professor of civil engineering at the Department of Civil and Construction Engineering, Swinburne University of Technology, Houston, USA, Australia, specializing in the future urban mobility research. His current work is focused on decarbonization of urban transport and harnessing digital innovations to unlock opportunities for smart and sustainable mobility futures. His standing in the field is demonstrated by more than 150 publications, including manuscripts and books on ITS, low carbon mobility for sustainable cities, and forthcoming handbook on artificial intelligence in transport. He is ranked in the Stanford University Global Scientist citation ranking in top 2% most cited scientists in the field of logistics and transportation. He is a Fellow of Engineers, Australia, Fellow of Institute of Transportation Engineers, and Fellow of the American Society of Civil Engineers. So again, it's a great to have a conversation with you today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump into the first agenda. So I was so inspired your very important work in the mobility space. So it's very happy to ask you about why did you decide to work in the mobility field? Could you share about it?
Thank you. I will, yes. I was attracted to transport engineering because it brings together people from different disciplines to solve some of the most challenging problems faced by society. So when we look at transport, and despite more than 50 years of investment in roads and transport infrastructure, our cities still experience severe traffic congestion issues, emissions, and air pollution, especially from motorized transport. So solving these issues requires a good effort to bring together engineers, infrastructure specialists, as well as information technology and people from social sciences and economics. My key research interests, as you mentioned, are in these areas and has been focused around applications of technology in transport as well as sustainability. So I find this sort of collaboration where we are, doing research in teams at the intersection of infrastructure, technology, and human behavior to be very rewarding and leads to very good outcomes for society.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you are attracted the mobility space, is there any opportunities for you to get into this field, just like you did some of the study research in the universities or something like this?
Yes. So most of my career has been in academia. I've had also some years of experience in the industry and consulting. But I think throughout my career, I was attracted to research and especially looking at solutions that are different from what we are doing now, because clearly we haven't been very successful in many cases in eliminating congestion, etc. And there are many reasons for this. So my interest always has been to look at new solutions. And I found that technology in particular provided a good avenue to provide, if you like, new innovations that can help us solve some of these problems.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. So I'm so interested and fascinated in your research field because you have the civil engineering in the mobility space. So could you share about your work in your university and what kind of curriculums are you teaching to the students and your surrounds?
Very good. So we have a number of courses that are specific to transport engineering, and we offer them both at the undergraduate level and also at the postgraduate level. But in recent years, my main focus has been in creating a set of professional development courses to help the industry develop future transport leaders. So to achieve this, I recently established a Future Transport Academy, which offers short online flexible learning um, on topics of interest to transport engineers. So these include around, each unit or each course includes around 15 to 20 hours of online flexible learning on topics that impact sustainability and future transport, such as smart mobility, decarbonizing transport, intelligent transport systems, and also transportation modeling. A core component of all these courses is focused on technology and sustainability approaches for solving transport problems.
And thank you. So what do you expect with the future mobility expert? I think that you broadcasting a very important content on the YouTube, then that's been a very important for the future expert involved in not just only for the mobility, but also the including the experiences in the digital technology. So is there any expectation from your other teachers?
Yes, I think because we are a university of technology, we are really focused on applied research and applied teaching. So while sometimes we do some theoretical work, our real interest is in developing applications, in developing research directions, and even in developing courses and curriculum to help students be future ready so that when they graduate, they have the tools, they have the skills, the experience, especially working with technology, to be able to go out in the field and start applying these solutions. And we find that these are things that are very welcome by the industry. They keep coming back to, employ our students. They take them on work experience because they feel they are hands-on, because we focus on the technology approach.
Yeah, that's brilliant. The mobility and technology key part of the field and for the future expertise. I agree with that. So as the next questions about the mobility transitions, and you have some research about self-driving that's been attractive, and you had commented on the very important events now. It's the problems of the Apple. They had suspended to invest in more resources in self-driving. They are changed on the strategy, and you are given a very important comment. So could you share about your view of the industry of self-driving, how this industry has been discussed until now?
Very good. And that's a very important topic. And as you mentioned, many companies have been working around this, and also researchers for, probably over 20 years now have been looking at this issue of autonomous vehicles and self-driving, mainly for safety aspects. So I think if we look at the industry, there is general agreement that self-driving technologies are an important development to solve road safety issues around the world. To give your audience an understanding, nearly 1.2 million people die in road traffic crashes worldwide every year. This is equivalent to around 15 wide-body aircrafts, each with a capacity of 200 passengers, falling out of the sky every single day and killing everyone on board, which is something that is not accepted in air travel, and it is actually quite shocking that it continues on our roads today. In Australia, we lose around 1,000 people every year to road crashes. Now, the majority of these crashes include human error as a contributing factor. And a large proportion of these crashes could be avoided by using self-driving vehicles. So there is compelling logic in introducing self-driving technologies and in removing the humans who are the key source of error from the driving equation. When you think about it, self-driving vehicles are essentially driven by an AI self-driving software. And this software, when it's ready, it is not ready completely yet. When it's ready, the software is not going to make errors of judgment the way that a human driver does. They will not, an AI self-driving software will not drink and drive. They will not fall asleep behind the wheel. So these are why I would like to see self-driving vehicles tomorrow, but we are not ready yet. And as you mentioned, despite billions of dollars in investment, there are still some technology and public acceptance issues. As you mentioned, Apple recently announced that probably after 10 years of investment and billions of dollars, that it's abandoning its electric self-driving project. And we have currently a number of companies, especially in the US, who are doing trials and are struggling with the robo-taxis, which seem to have attracted mixed reactions from the public and even resulted in some clashes between members of the public and the vehicles. The vehicles are not ready yet, and they're being deployed in the public, and they're causing disruptions to emergency services. They're causing, for no reason, they're stopping and not moving. So the public were not happy. And I think it's a realization that self-driving technologies, what we call level 5 automation, which is when you have a vehicle that can drive anywhere and under any conditions, still requires a lot of development, and we need further breakthroughs in AI before these vehicles become a reality. So one thing that some of the companies are doing, they're not actually saying we're going to wait until we have fully self-driving technologies. Instead, what they're doing, they say, well, today we have a good technology for automatic braking, or we have a very good and proven technology to help the vehicle stay between lanes. So they're already starting to implement these technologies in their vehicles. And they're still waiting until a time when we have the full self-driving vehicles. But at the same time, they're introducing these technologies in their vehicles so that they improve safety.
Yeah, that's been a very challenging. Many of the project is trying to debracing of the something the human errors to the self-driving, which is the very key actions for our safety society in the mobility field. So thank you for sharing with some of the very important history as well. So in order to apply the artificial intelligence for the vehicles, you mentioned on the handbook, which is very helpful for the listeners as well. And artificial intelligence need some of the very important components In this interview, we'd like to touch about the security and privacy for ethical autonomous vehicle. So what do you have to consider privacy and security for ethical autonomous vehicle in the future?
Very good. And that's a very, very important topic as well. And it will determine eventually the success or failure of these systems in the long run. So there are probably three sets or three levels of concerns about the AI self-driving from an ethics point of view. As you know, these self-driving algorithms are trained on data, and they need a lot of data from real-world situations to understand, this is a passenger, this is a vehicle, this is a bus, and, this is a kangaroo crossing the road, etc., etc. So the first level of concern is bias in the performance and behavior, which can result from using data that doesn't reflect the main population. An example we have seen in self-driving vehicles is when the software is not very well trained to recognize children or people of color. If the data set does not include a diverse set of images or videos to train the model on, it might not recognize certain instances or certain categories of people, and it might end up in a crash or in hitting a pedestrian or a child. The second concern is around fairness. And what we mean by that is that because the training data sets are based on historical data, they might not reflect the best practice. They might reflect unfair practices in the past, or they could be manipulated or discriminating against certain groups. The third level of concern is around the unethical behavior of the AI self-driving model. When the data that it is trained on is either distorted towards a certain set of morals or does not behave in a reasonable way. An example of this is we have seen the use of fake data or fake information to train models, and that can result in a bias in the performance and the security, as well as you mentioned, as well as the privacy. So there is a big responsibility on AI developers to avoid such biases. And the best solution to do this is diversity. So what we mean is that this means diversity of background of the people, the researchers themselves, to avoid having every member in the team thinking in the same way. There also needs to be diversity of the mindset and morality of people who are developing these systems, and also diversity of data. So not relying only on one source of data, but also to have multiple sources of data. And finally, because AI is developing very quick, there are always different solutions within AI, different algorithms. So the best way to overcome this bias is also to use a number of different algorithms, so that even if it's the same data set but different algorithms, and then choosing the best one. And I think the best example about AI and ethics in autonomous vehicles is the classical problem about moral questions around what should the AI do in traffic situations where things go wrong and there is a risk of unavoidable harm. So, for example, if an autonomous vehicle experiences a system failure and a crash is about to happen, should it continue driving on its course and maybe run into a wall and kill all the passengers? Or should it, for example, go left or right, but in that process it will hit a pedestrian? This is a classical problem that has been discussed in the literature, And MIT did a study on this a few years back, and they found very interesting results. They identified, that around the world there are different clusters of opinions on these issues. Um, and this actually has some implications in maybe certain cultures, for example, value the lives of older people at the expense of younger people. There are certain cultures that, interestingly found, they prefer the animal welfare over, for example, human welfare. Generally, actually, all of them recognize that human welfare is more important than the welfare of animals, for example. But within some clusters, there were some differences. So this makes it very difficult, at the same time, very interesting for car manufacturers when they want to develop the AI self-driving technology to ensure that it meets the expectations of the countries in which the vehicle is going to be driven.
Yeah, that's a very huge challenge for not just only for the developers, but also the vehicle makers, manufacturers, many kind of the stakeholders has to work in this movement together. And so you also has been broadcasting a very important content on your YouTube record. And you mentioned that diversity background is the key part of the resources to create an ethical approach. So from your perspective and experiences, so how should we design the future ethical models in an autonomous mobility future, just like a lot of the different stakeholders involvement or discussing the different perspectives. So is there any essence from your perspective?
Very good. So the information and the evidence we have today suggests there are implications of these moral considerations that we need to take into consideration when looking at the design and regulation of self-driving vehicles. And according to the MIT study, these moral considerations could be different between countries. Now, that may be very challenging to go and design different AI for different countries. It might not be even realistic. But nevertheless, I think the important takeaway here and consideration is regardless of how rare these extreme situations will be, when the vehicle loses control and it needs to make a decision, these ethics principles and decisions should not be dictated by commercial interest. They should not be dictated by the car manufacturer or the developer of the AI algorithms. What we have been saying is that these decisions need to be agreed beforehand based on societal preferences, based on what people think, rather than what commercial operators think. Because there was an incident where a company said, in the future, my self-driving vehicle is going to always protect the passengers. And you would expect them to do that, right? Because nobody is going to buy their vehicle if they're not going to protect the passengers. But these sort of decisions need to be made by society and then need to be informed to the regulators and to the car manufacturers so that the car manufacturers put in place systems that correspond to the moral preferences of the society, regardless of where they are, whether they are in the east, north, south, or west of our planet.
Yeah, thank you. We should look at not just for the commercial purposes, it's more societal challenges in this space. That's a very good actions for the different stakeholders in it together. So at the end, I'd like to ask some of the message for the listeners. Maybe your work is very important and sharing your experiences, your thoughts to the listeners. So please.
Very good, very good. I mean, I would leave your listeners with maybe a key message, which is to keep watching this space. It is going to be very exciting to see how AI in transport will develop over the coming years. There are a lot of innovations and there are a lot of advances. So AI and other advanced technologies are just expected to help us in solving persistent problems that so far we haven't been able to solve in transport. So there are a range of AI solutions and applications that are available today, others that are being developed, and they will be very helpful in solving the most challenging problems in transport, including road safety, as we mentioned, reducing the number of crashes, reducing the number of fatalities, as well as congestion management, improving public transport, making our infrastructure more reliable, with predictive maintenance and so forth. I agree, and we all agree there will be challenges along the way, such as the challenges of the ethics of AI we talked about today. But generally, if AI applications are well planned and implemented, innovations in AI will transform all aspects of future transport, and it will help us to achieve um, sustainable outcomes that will benefit all the transport users as well as our planet.
Yeah, thank you for your very important message. So that's again very glad to have a conversation, Professor, saying about your work and future mobility. It's very important, not just only for the privacy and the security experts, but also from the industry as well. So yeah, let's keep updates and sharing the more insights from your actions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share these insights with you.
Yeah, thank you.